I have to say, I am loving this show as more episodes are released especially because you don't see battle junkie shows all too often, especially isekai battle junkies. Really, if you were to take the average per year, you're gonna get not that many, if any, on any average year. And having Kelvin be as memorable of a character as he is makes the whole battle junkie formula, I think, more interesting than really the last time I've experienced it, because he's one of those characters who's not like a psychotic evil bastard, he's not like morally corrupt, he's literally the average gamer who likes a challenge, who's now thrown into a world where it's not like he has to question his morals of, oh, should I kill this thing? Like, he's literally going up against demons and monsters, and when he does go up against humans, he's not killing them, he's letting the punishment be basically set on them by the courts of law in this world. So nothing about him has to be, like, morally challenged, right? He doesn't have to say, ooh, this is a talking demon, should I feel bad about cutting its head off? Shit, that's a gamer's wet dream, go kill a powerful demon. And it's interesting, right? Because he's the farthest thing from evil, but he also has such a thrill for the hunt, and to see it kind of like very much thrown in our face, because you have Best Boy saying like that's the exact same look he had when he fought me, because he looks for something that's more challenging. And I'm excited to see, because this is literally a gluttony demon, something that if it has any sort of connection to you and it eats you, it basically gains your abilities, or your powers, or your stats, something about you, right? Deeper the connection, the more you gain. So this is a S-rank demon that has been around the block and is very, very powerful. For Kelvin, that's his wet dream. The idea of the danger and the potential death, it's an adrenaline rush for the guy. And I love seeing a character like him who is thrown in this episode in so many, what you would say, cliche situations, and he actually navigates it in ways that aren't really that common. I think you can look at the love triangle and the kind of protecting your harem. Some people might want to say that Anji isn't a part of the harem, that she's just playing wingman for him and Ethel, but really at the end of the day, she kind of feels like she's a little flustered by the guy. And at this point, I mean, even the crowds in the general market are calling it a love triangle. I think it'd be foolish for us not to do the same. You have something that's pretty like, oh, they're very much setting up a date. He's a little flustered, he's a little embarrassed, hey, not in public, what do you mean? Do you do this in private? It's kind of flirtatious, it's nothing crazy, but it's a little charming, I found. And then you introduce the prince. I think it's like the third prince, something in that area there. He's not like the highest up, but he's still royalty, all things considered. And what does this man do when he's trying to take the women for himself and saying, oh, if you let this happen, I'll let you be able to move on with your day? He pretty much breaks the ribs of the two bodyguards. There's no way their ribs weren't broken, which rightfully so, they were working for a scumbag. But instead of just like making the prince fearful after taking out his bodyguards, he makes the prince his bitch. And I can't remember the last time I've seen an isekai character or a fantasy character who's very strong, who immediately, when a douchebag in a show deserved to get punished, even if they were royalty, he actually did it. And the fact that the crowd cheered afterwards, I have to say, that's how you take a pretty cliche, normal, and don't get me wrong, even if he didn't do anything crazy there, I was fine with the scene. I thought it was a little cute, little flirtatious. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't going to hype it up or anything. But once you see what he does with that scene, it's hard not to say, okay, Kelvin continued to prove why he's best boy. And then you can even look at the bed scene. I mean, there's been a lot of slavery, kind of like buying of slaves, flirtatious. Hell, we just had a sex scene in Harem in the Labyrinth, that anime. So the idea that you have someone like Ethel who very much is in love with Kelvin, and understandably so. He's the person who set her free, the one who taught her what human touch is. Very much, that's her savior, and he hasn't took advantage of her, and she's a little upset in one way, because she's like, oh shit, am I not beautiful? And he goes in for a kiss, and then stops himself because he notices the chain around her neck, that she's a slave. Now, people have a lot of arguments and opinions on what characters should do if, a slave falls in love. Is it really love? Is it, just because you're my master? Ultimately, though, I don't really care which opinion you fall on, and I am kind of different for every show that I watch. But in this moment, I liked what he did, because this kind of shows you his character, that he's like, shit, she's hot. She's probably the hottest person I've met in this world. But honestly, I feel a little weird because I did buy her, and I can't guarantee that this is a mutual consenting thing going on. If I was to kiss her, she would just do it because, well, I am her master. I very much am going to kind of push away from this and just treat her with nurturing respect. You know, some people might say, oh, why didn't he go in for it? But his character felt awkward about it and wasn't fully convinced, so he pulled away from that, and you don't see that too often. I think that's what makes his kind of battle junkie persona so good, is that he's the farthest thing from evil. He's the farthest thing from a goody two-shoes or a supreme evil being. He's really feels like a very normal average person who just loves hardcore gaming and now is in the most hardcore gaming thing that he could do. He gets to kill monsters, doesn't have to feel guilty about it. He can punish criminals and the law can take care of it. He got to help free a slave. Yeah, he did that just so he had someone that he could basically be a battle junkie with. But still, he's doing a lot of good things, but he just wants to fight. And he has so much that he can fight, which does good things for the world. And they're setting in motion, obviously, the later plot points. You have the introduction to the heroes and basically the woman responsible for them. They did make fun of them in this episode that they're not that powerful for being in the world for a year, but they didn't seem useless. It just kind of feels like the difference between average people leveling up in a world versus Kelvin, who is a battle junkie who very much exploits the system for the fastest gain so he can fight the strongest of opponents. But it was funny seeing, the goddess and everyone just kind of talk mad shit as they're basically parading about how strong they are. A lot of really good stuff, and the idea of finally getting revealed who this woman, who I think for at least 2 episodes prior to this one, I don't think it was teased in the first episode, but I know for sure 2 and 3, we get to learn that this is the Demon King's daughter. You know damn well she's joined the party in some way, and if not, I would be shocked if she doesn't at some point in the story. But I'm very much interested because for him, let's save the girl if we can, but ultimately, if she decides she wants to fight me, for him that'd probably be the best case scenario, that, oh shit, this is the Demon King's daughter. I really hope she's evil too so I can fight her once I'm done with this guy. And I just love seeing, because even though he's very strong, you can look at his fight against his best bro, the Knight there, right? He did have to put up a fight. So even though he's very strong, it's not like he's gonna one-shot them, right? And for someone like Kelvin, he doesn't want to one-shot these characters. He wants the longest and most intense fight because he is a hardcore battle junkie. And there's a lot to like about this show. It has all the familiar elements that you're used to, but it takes slight deviations to make it memorable enough. And with a character like Kelvin, who I think is a fascinating character to follow, I mean, you don't just have any other show where you beat up a prince and as you're getting talked by the guildmaster, he mentions how, shit, you probably just started a war doing that, but that's a conversation for another day. I'm sure that wasn't you. And all he can do is just kind of have his eyebrows kind of glitch out on him because he's just a little nervous about what just happened there. To me, Black Summoner has turned out to be far better than I could have possibly asked for. In fact, I would argue this was one of the shows, like one of the 2 or 3 shows that I was like, I could probably watch an episode and enjoy it, but I doubt I'm going to want to review it, let alone carry on with multiple episodes. But this has actually grown into one of the more fun ones to discuss, and I have to say, I'm enjoying the lead character more and more, and the situations that he gets thrown into. And I'm glad that they really hammered in this episode how much of a battle junkie he is. I think it's been pretty obvious up to this point, but this one definitely really shows you that if he got to fight a world-ending dragon, that's like Christmas morning for him, and it's kind of terrifyingly exciting, but I'm excited to see how the fight goes. It definitely had a bit of a rocky animation at times with certain still shots and conversations, but for the most part, I like how this episode looked, and I like how they're incorporating the 3D and 2D, and it'll be interesting to see how the fight looks in next week's episode. But thoughts down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.